Greetings and salutations, fellow, fellow. I don't know if I can be heard. This is the problem.
Yell.
Yeah, well, let me yes.
Get your megaphone out.
Okay. Check one, two. Okay, I should be broadcasting now. Um, Welcome, folks. Welcome to the live cast on Saturday evening, this Labor Day weekend here in the United States. I hope everybody has a safe uh, and happy and gratuitous and fortuitous uh, Labor Day weekend. So it is about 11:15 on a Saturday evening, and I am here with a guest motovlogger from New Zealand, from the land of Kiwi, or a Kiwi. This is BubblyNess from New Zealand. You're welcome to say hello to all of our guests viewing.
Oh, hello everybody. And I'd just like to point out it's actually Sunday afternoon here. And is it your Labor Day there? I didn't know that.
Yes, it is our
Oh.
Labor Day weekend, and
Oh.
indeed, um, it will be. Well, Labor Day is officially Monday, so everything
Yeah.
on holidays are closed. I'm sure that I'm not
Mm.
sure if they do
Mm.
similar things in
Yeah.
Australia and New
Kind yeah,
Zealand.
kind
They
of.
close the
Yeah,
post,
yeah.
they close the post offices down, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. It's Father's Day here today, so
oh well,
occasions all round, eh?
yes, Happy Father's Day to everybody down under, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Down
what we're
under
going to do
under.
here is we're going to talk a little bit about. Uh, I wanted to do a follow up with this bike that has come out from MV Agusta because in doing some more reading and just a little bit more research, it is my understanding, although I don't have any confirmation, but based on an article from I believe it was Motorcyclist magazine, this and this kind of really irks me because if it's true, it just means that MV Agusta is dangling this carrot out in front of everybody, and but it's not going to be available to anybody because, according to the article, it's a one-off bike. It was built for some Japanese, if my understanding is correctly, a Japanese engineer, anonymous Japanese
Mm.
engineer, and apparently he had commissioned MV to build him this one-off bike here, the F4 Z, as you would say there in New Zealand, or F4Z Zagato. Um, I There's been a lot of complaints about this bike. With respect to its aesthetics, its looks, I think it's brilliant. I think it looks stunning. It, at the first photographs weren't uh, entirely flattering, I would say. And then, of
Mm.
course, they had this advertisement, which was sort of whetting everybody's appetite and teasing everybody, which makes no sense to me because why would you advertise a bike as a company and then only to find out that this was a one-off endeavor to
Yeah,
say
exactly.
to satiate some, you know,
Mm.
uh,
And yeah, unless you're like putting yourself out there as a custom type deal,
yeah,
you'd have to make that pretty plain and clear, though, I'd say.
sure. And I'll just go over some of the or recapitulate some of the things that I like about this bike. Um, I really like what they've done with the proportions of the bike. If you look at the two, if you're looking at it from a side profile, and one of the things I've noticed in some of these newer photographs, which were just released like about 24 to 36 hours ago, um, you get this sense of an arch or an ellipse here from the front to the back. And it's a very even line that starts at the nose here and then it goes all the way up and over, and you can follow it all the way to the tail section of the bike, and then it just sort of, caps off at about mid wheel there. It comes down to about where the axle, the rear of the seat comes
Mm.
down to where the axle is. And so this is usually, it tightens it cleans the lines of the bike up a little bit. These stubby seat type bikes, cafe racers, which have typically been have these sort of short tails, and then of
Mm.
course, if you've seen some of the bobbers, they also
Yeah.
tend to have these like really stubby little short seats on them. And I think the BMW is one such bike that actually does that as well. The RT9, I think
Mm.
you can do that. They have it set up
Mm.
so that you can get these aftermarket components and then configure the look of the bike if you want to. But the frame, the chassis, and all of the other internals of the bike that make up the bike are the traditional F4. So if we look at the yeah, so if we go to look at the MV F4 here, um, this is what the bike normally looks like, and still not a bad design at all. It's a great, I mean, just it's a great looking bike all the way around, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it better.
You
Way better.
actually, well, I think a lot of people are used to seeing this look, and I mean, I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's got more balance though. Like, obviously aesthetically, the way the seat is, you see how at the front it's the red, the back it's the red, and it's the same tonal red, like it's the same value, it's the same paint, obviously.
Well, you also
And the
have
other
this.
one,
You also have this
mm,
sort of line that sort
you
of
have that line all that runs all, yeah,
all the way
exactly.
all the way through the bike.
Yeah, it sort of gives you, it actually looks, it actually gives you more of a feel of like speed and movement because it's sort of like this whoosh, like that's what I feel anyway. It's like
Hmm.
this whoosh, this line, whereas the other one's really curved, and I
Yes.
feel like it's a little bit disproportionate because the seat is a different tonal color to the red on the front. It
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
feel
one
like
of
it's
the.
balanced.
If I had to make a
Mm,
complaint about that's one of the things that
yeah,
bothers me about the bike. And
yeah,
what I was
same.
actually going to do, I was actually going to borrow some color from the fairing, and I was actually going
Yeah,
to
redo it. Yeah,
and to redo it. Or um,
yeah.
one of the things I thought about doing was you see, I don't know if you can actually see this line. Oops, that's a little bit too close in there.
Is it
Um,
like a stitching line or something?
yeah, the stitching there, if you can see that, what I was thinking of
Yeah, I
doing.
can't, but I can imagine.
Yeah, there's a little line that comes down here. So I was thinking of
Mm,
maybe taking the silver and filling this portion in, and then just having that red piece right
yeah,
there might balance it off a little bit more.
yeah,
But yeah,
possibly.
yeah. I
Yeah.
like the exhaust. See on the let's see where it is. On the F4, you have
Mm,
the traditional organ pipe flutes that come out of the undertail exhaust here. So you have a lot
yeah.
of this plumbing that comes up through here into the
Yeah.
back.
I actually like those.
Yeah,
It feels more, I don't know, the symmetry of it pleases me. The underslung thing, I don't know, I've never really, I don't know, it grates me a little bit. I don't know, it's just personalized preference, I guess, but
sure.
it doesn't feel as even.
Right. It's kind of a
Mm,
shame that
that's beautiful.
this started off as a 750, if I'm not mistaken, and then they bumped the displacement up to a 1000. And even the
Oh,
750s are still quite pricey. They're still getting a lot of
yeah.
money for the 750s, but it's nice.
Mm,
The 750s, Suzuki was smart where they never eliminated their 750 GSXR because it
yeah.
kind of gives you that upper end power of a leader bike, but it also uh, I don't know. Somebody said something about the GSXR 750 that it was the best 600 ever made. It's basically
Yeah.
the same
It's
motor.
my favorite.
It's the same motor as the 600, but I think it's been overboard
Bought it,
or
yeah.
yeah, it's been overbored. I think it has the same stroke as the 600, but it just has a bigger bore.
Mm,
Same
yeah.
block, if I'm not
I don't,
mistaken.
yeah, I'm not a huge Suzuki girl, but I think if I was to go down that route, I'd probably, yeah, I'd probably choose that one.
Sure. So then
Mm.
let's go on to another photograph. This is the exhaust on the Zagato.
Mm.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And then here is a,
Well,
let's see,
yeah.
where is, there is more.
Have you got like a straight on?
Yes, there, let me just see if I can find, oh, wait a minute. He put, oh, here's the collection I put up. So we got this angle here. We got this angle here.
Yeah.
I just like it's soft, but it's muscular looking. It looks.
It's very soft, but then it's got this. I don't know. I really don't like the headlight. It's so little and it's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's,
Yeah. You either, I think it's one of those bikes where you either love it or hate it, you know.
yeah. Well, I don't hate it. It doesn't grab me on the inside. I like the view from the back better than the front. Definitely like that. Yeah.
Well,
That's
that's the front. Yeah.
gorgeous. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that is really
Now
nice.
here's the back.
Yeah, like yeah, see, look at that pipe. It's such a big fat, like it just there's it's almost like someone just chopped it off and shoved it in there. I feel like it doesn't have any. It's just like,
I'm sure
no, I don't like it.
the engineers at Zagato would be like, what?
I know. They're like, what are you talking about? You know nothing.
You know,
But
well,
do you know what
this
I mean?
was
It's just this
well,
gaping hole.
yes. Well, this was kind of the attitude actually at Ducati for a while. I don't know if they still have it, but you know, the attitude like particularly with their GP bikes. And I don't know if you recall, but like with Rossi, I mean, complained about the Desmo Sedici, Stoner complained about it, and all the other riders complained about the bike. There was no front end feel, and this was when they went to
Mm.
a frameless. They basically eliminated the frame.
What tires were they running?
Well, I don't know, but there was no.
Yeah,
The engine was the main stress member of the bike,
right.
and it was, you know, the rest of it was like carbon fiber or whatever. And so
Yeah.
part of the problem with, think of it like
Mm.
this: carbon fiber is very rigid, but it's also a very, it doesn't vibrate like metal. You know, in other words, like when you hit a bell, it has the, you know,
I understand. Yes.
it
Yeah.
vibrates. And so
Yeah.
um, the front end feel was missing because all of the carbon fiber and stuff was just
It gets
giving
absorbed before
no,
the rider can feel the
yeah, it
yeah.
wasn't providing the rider with any feedback, or
Yeah,
little
and
to no
it's
feedback.
not safe.
Well, the thing about Stoner was is he actually figured out how to ride the bike, and
Mm.
he said that it was like
Mm.
almost riding a dirt bike, because on a dirt bike the front end is so doggone light. He's, because you know that's
Yeah,
how he started riding motorcycles.
you're right. Yeah.
So he figured out how to, I guess, ride the doggone thing, and of course he won on
Mm.
it. So
Mm.
anyway,
Did he
but
put the tire pressure right down?
I don't know, but I think the rules
Because that would
probably.
help. Oh,
Yes, of
I see.
course.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of a way of cheating, but I think the
Cheating. Hmm.
well, could be. But
It's
what do you think? So, like
tweeting.
now you have like Deflate Gate on like World Superbike and MotoGP, like you did in the National Football League and American football, because New England Patriots quarterback was accused of letting air pressure out of the balls so that you know they could get a firmer grip on the ball, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there
that's
was
just
there.
making your equipment work for you. You know,
Well,
I believe that's within the realm of yeah. I wouldn't think that would
yeah,
be
but rules are
cheating.
rules, and so you know the thing of
But
it
that's
is,
like everyone. That's like saying to everyone has to wear the same size T-shirt, and if you alter it at all, you know, you're disqualified. Like I think that's ridiculous.
well, I guess what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to, well, yeah, I mean, I can understand what you mean because you know,
Mm.
people have different, but you have to conform or adapt
Mm.
to the rules that are already laid out, and this is kind of been the problem with
Conformity.
with MotoGP.
Yeah.
Moving right along to this bike here.
Mm.
Oh, let's just go back to the MV Agusta. The F4 is a beautiful bike, and then of course the F3, which was voted the most beautiful super mid, I think, sports bike in the world, and it's easy to
Who
understand why.
who gets to vote on these things? I've always wondered.
I don't know who actually
Mm.
made the.
Me?
Well,
Yes.
of
I don't
course.
I don't I don't feel I keep my mind open. Like I don't ever try and listen to too much of that sort of stuff because it's like, well, where did they get that like statistics and stuff? It's like, okay, where did they get that from? Who did the survey? Who what is that body
I
of
think what they
group of body?
probably,
Like
well, they probably, I mean, this is only a guess, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But sometimes what they'll do is they'll take a pulse, they'll present, I think it was at a show,
mm,
or
okay.
in a series of shows, and
Mm,
they take polls on for people to vote on what their
right.
favorite bike
Yeah.
was,
Yeah,
sort of
because there's
thing.
so many variables. Like, yeah, it's like where was that show and what was it? Yeah. Anyway, keep
Well,
going,
the thing
Trevor.
about that's beautiful about this bike is there is not one single bad angle of this bike. I mean, and it doesn't make any difference from what angle you take a photograph of this bike. It's just, it's just bang on. I mean, it's just amazing to look at. I mean, to look at it, it just doesn't take a bad photograph no matter what angle you look at it from. And it's just one of those things. Now, interestingly enough, this was not designed by
Uh,
Tamburini. This bike design was by a British engineer. I can't remember.
really?
Yes, his name is Adrian.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought.
Or is it Adrian? No, I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he was a British. He's a British engineer. He studied Massimo's designs, and actually,
Wow.
Tamburini sort of gave him the nod. He was trying to capture
Uh,
the spirit of the F4 basically, and so this is what they did, and with the F3, and it's just a
mm,
beautiful bike. It's probably the F3 800, which I've ridden, is probably and arguably uh, my all time one of my all time favorite sports bikes. I have a handful of others, but this is like right there at the top of the list for a number of different reasons. But yeah, then we go to this bike, which was um, unfortunately, as beautiful as it is, as we read a little bit about the Foggy Patronus. This is a three-cylinder bike. Didn't do too well
mm,
in WSB,
mm,
and they changed the rules. They really didn't have the I guess the financial wherewithal or the financial backing or the time to really develop this bike. And I think that
yeah,
that's one of the reasons the bike failed, but it could have potentially done very well. And what had happened,
yeah.
there was like about 100 or so of these bikes in a container, and they were just sitting there as a collection, and somebody actually discovered them
Oh,
and bought the entire collection. So
gosh.
um, yeah, so I'm just a huge fan. As many people know, I'm a huge fan of three-cylinder bikes, and I think it's just a really cool bike. And then, of course, there's your John Britten, the Britten 1000.
Um,
You've actually now I understand you've actually seen the uh, that bike up close and personal. Yeah.
well, it's funny you bring that up actually because just before now I was editing on Premiere Pro. I was editing some footage I've got of a racer, Andrew Stroud, and I've got him doing a few burnouts. There's an art gallery that we have here in Christchurch, New Zealand, and they had like an exhibition happening. And so I went down in my break from work and I went down and got some footage of that. But I've also got some photos from when I went down to the Motorbike Museum, which is in Nelson, up north, and got some of that. So I'm going to put that together and stick it on my YouTube channel. And yeah, it's an amazing bike.
That would be a great. That is just a great idea because this. a lot of people don't know that this bike set the standard by which pretty much almost all of today's modern sport bikes. I mean, it's in addition to all that, the thing that just boggles my mind is this was not done in a computer in a CAD program. It was not
Mm,
designed. No computers were used, to my knowledge, at least to design the overall bike. I can't. I don't know about the engine, but I understand that he developed and built his own engine, made all of
right.
his own parts. If they didn't have it, I think there was
Yeah.
just only a handful of, maybe a couple of electronic components that were not his, that were off the shelf. But everything else was John Britton's bike,
Mm,
and
mm.
the
Yeah, he was a real pioneer, and just the whole front end is so different to any other bike. Like when you come into a corner, you don't have to brake as much. Like they're just riding it. Like they say, if a racer's going to ride the Britain, it's better if they've never raced a bike before. The whole learning, the whole feel and everything of the bike is so incredibly different.
wow,
Um,
well, it's
it's
he's got it's a
yeah,
Springer front end, and look at this component. He's got another one down here. That is really, really
mm,
bizarre. I've never seen that
yeah,
before.
yeah. I just don't understand why they haven't taken up that design more, because you actually save, you can go a whole lot faster, it just the whole thing is just so, I don't know, I don't like, it's just so different. I don't want to say ahead of its time. It's just so, well, it kind of is, but
Well, it
it's just
absolutely
so
was ahead.
different.
It was absolutely was ahead of its time.
It's, well, the fact now it's still so different even now, and it's sort of like, well, it's totally on a different plane, really. In my mind it is anyway, and I just don't understand why people haven't really, I guess it's scary for people as well. It's just like it's not what they know, and if they aren't invested in it, they might not take the time to actually fully, work it out. So they haven't taken it up, but because it's all time and money. But I think if they started, racing those bikes at MotoGP, it would just be nuts. It would be insane watching that, everyone coming into the corner, and yeah, it's just. But I don't know. I guess there's probably problems with it, just like any other bike as well, though. But
Sure.
the welding alone, like you talk about art, a piece of art is just amazing.
And
It's absolute.
our friend and my favorite road racer of all time, Guy Martin, got to ride the bike, and he made
Yeah.
some very you know telling commentaries. I mean,
Mm,
but this bike set quite a few records too. I understand it set speed records. It set I think some track time records. Let's just take a quickie looky loo here. Um, yeah. Um, Fastest top speed at the Isle of Man in 1993. It
mm,
won first battle of the Twins in Holland. Second and third battle of the Twins at Daytona in 1991. 1994, it won. It came in first and in let's see, New Zealand National Superbike Championship first and second. Yeah, so it has enough street cred or track cred.
mm,
What's interesting is it's a 5 speed and an option with an optional 6 speed, and its top speed is 188 miles an hour, according to this, which is probably a conservative estimate. I think it went faster than that,
mm,
if I'm not mistaken. But that really awesome documentary. There's like a 2-hour documentary about John Britton and how he. I
mm.
guess this was one of his.
He
This was
gave
his.
his life, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he just put so much of himself into it. I think at the end it
Do you
was
think it?
just.
Do you think it killed him?
I think it did. I think it did. I mean, if you look at anyone who's passionate about something and just creates this amazing, you know, well, I don't want to say product. just work. I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs, you know, like all these guys who put so much into what they did. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost like it overtook, like just, yeah,
It
it kind of,
consumes them.
it's almost like they gave more than they had to give, which made it so amazing. But it, yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just killed them, which is really sad.
Mm. Yeah. Renaissance men of our time, I guess you could say, in a manner
Yeah,
of
it's
speaking.
sad. I love how it's got the frameless chassis and stuff, and the you know, the engine, the stress and everything. It's just like I don't know. I mean, it's sad that he died because I reckon if he was to go on to produce other machines, you know, it just change the way we look at everything. Because I reckon the way his mind worked was so different, and I think he actually had dyslexia and things like that. So it
Mm.
just goes to show, you know, sometimes the way people think, it's not necessarily, you know, people go, oh, you know, they struggle, or, you know, it's a disability almost, and things like that. I think it's not true. I think it's just society puts everyone in a box and expects everyone to think the same, which is so sad because you lose all those new amazing ideas that people might have because they just
Sure.
get written off. Yeah. So I think it's
Sure.
important to, you know, for those people who think differently, so outside of the box, and you know, so creatively, I think it's really important to make sure those people have space to be listened to and understood a little bit more, instead of just being, you know, sort of swept under the rug.
Sure.
And yeah, that happens really early on for kids, I think, these days. But
Mm.
yeah, I think it's yeah, it's just such a shame. It's such a epic loss, really.
So tell tell our audience a little bit about how tell us a little bit how you got started in motovlogging, and you want to share maybe a little bit of um, your sort of
Wow.
journey.
Okay, so since I can remember, I think I used to love, like, I don't know, like being a kid watching a motorbike go past. It was always like this special thing. It was like, oh my gosh, you know, it's kind of like a Superman going past or something. You know, your eyes go wide as saucers, and it's sort of like a special thing. Um, but I think really, 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 when we had an earthquake here in 2010, 7.1, I think it was that one. We had quite a few, and
Right, I
I
remember there
think
was
I
a rather large quake not too long ago.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
devastating.
yeah, it was huge. It was absolutely huge. And I just woke up that day. I think I said, well, I could be dead tomorrow. And what have I been doing? So I went out and got my motorbike license. A lot of the whole motovlogging thing, I think, started because I used to watch a lot of motorbike clips, mostly things like Quick Shift. There's one's called Quick Shift and Medis, although I don't really watch a lot of stuff now, but I loved watching. Just it's a creative thing as well. It's sort of like a really good creative outlet, but the music and the bikes and everything like just got to me. So I was like, wow, what's that about? You know, and I just watched so much of them. I thought, well, maybe why can't I do that? You know, so I started looking into it, and then a few people I started talking to were like, you should do that too. Why can't you do that? And I was like, well, why can't I do that? And I was like, oh, and then they'd push me along, and then so I got a camera, and yeah, and then I got a mic, and that was the end of it. So, but I'm
Mm.
all very early. I've got 110, 111 subscribers, and I've only been doing it for almost 2 to 3 months. So I've got a lot to learn, and I'm just trying to still get the feel and find out what my flavor is going to come across as. So yeah,
Sure.
it's really fun. It's a really great outlet for me. Um, and just learning. So I use Adobe Premiere Pro as well, and I'm learning that there's just so many options. So
Right.
it's just a little
Sure.
bit full on, but I'm really enjoying it. It's lots of fun. I think to start off with, my clips are a little bit more silly and fun, but it's a good way to learn, just to have fun with it and not stress too much. But yeah,
Right.
there's so many people I watch and listen to, and I think it'd be really good to encourage more women out there to get into it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's I can't remember what is her name. She races in the TT. I'm trying to remember her name. Well, I know that I actually got to meet Lana Myers, who set some records, won some for women in motorcycle racing here in the United States. Actually, got her signature on a couple of my things, and yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to encourage people from all walks of life. I think motorcycling is something
Mm.
everybody can enjoy, and it doesn't make any difference what type of uh, motorcycling you like to do, and everybody
Right.
sort of has
Right.
their
Right.
little niche that they want to fit into.
Right.
um I I like all motorcycles, and I could probably find a way to be happy, no matter um
Yeah.
what I chose to ride. I mean, I do like riding sport bikes, but part of me wants to, would kind of like to slow down a little bit and, get onto something a little bit more or a little less.
Mm.
Uh,
A little more, a little less.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little less Mr. Hyde, you know.
A little bit more Jekyll.
Yeah, a little bit more Jekyll, a little bit more Jekyll, and a little bit less of Mr. Hyde. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's true. And I think everybody's like that. I think you go through seasons. I'm still, I'm on my second bike. So the first bike I learned on was a CBF2, 125. And for me, I did not enjoy that bike at all. I'm quite light, and the bike was quite light. So going faster on a windy day, it just freaked me out because it just pushed me all over the road. And I felt I had absolutely no control. And it was just, yeah. So as soon as I went to the 250, that's when I really felt a lot more confident. And I started learning a lot more. I didn't freak out so much. I was a bit more present instead of all being, in my brain going, I'm going to die. The truck's going to run me over. So as soon as, yeah, so it's amazing what a difference a bike can make to, yeah, your joy of riding. And it's going to be different at different seasons of your life as well. But so now I'm on the 250. I'm just loving it. And my goal is just to get really killer in the corners with that thing. But also just really enjoy it as well, and not be like on to the next, and not be like, oh, it's not big enough. A lot of guys are always like, oh, you need a bigger engine, you need a bit of it. But actually, I really want to get to know it, and I want to pull it apart. Like at the moment it's in parts because I'm taking the fairing off to get them painted, and so I'm doing all these little bits to it. But it's so much fun. And I think if you own a bike or even a car, I think you need to know how to maintain it at least, and you need to understand that. You need to own a workshop manual, or at least know where you can read one, and things like that. It's really important. I think it does, like I was saying about the relationship with the rider and the bike, there is that there. And I think the more you work on your bike, the more that they get stronger and things like that. So you might be pushing it in a corner, and because you know your bike so well, I think you almost know what's going to happen next. And it might be a safety thing. You might be better or safer because you know your bike more than the next guy knows his. So it might be the difference between life and death. I mean, if I want to be that dramatic about it. But it's just one of those things. And the more you ride it, the better you get as well, obviously. But
yeah,
I
and that's
think,
just
yeah.
kind of yeah, and I agree pretty much with everything you're saying. I mean, it's this, I don't know, some people might say it's a cathartic,
Yeah.
uh, in a way,
Yeah.
to be on a motorcycle. And
Yeah.
I've actually not
Yeah.
gotten around to reading that book, Zen and the Art of
Same.
Motorcycle Maintenance. I think that's the title of the book, and
Yeah.
I wanted to read that, just but I've got like
Yeah.
so many.
I've read some of it. I've read some of it. It's funny. It's really great. I really enjoy. Actually, did I read the whole thing? But he goes on a trip and he talks about everything,
Yep,
and it
and
isn't just
I think it's
maintenance.
with
It's
his son,
great.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He's on a
And
trip
he's
with
talking
his
about the
son.
rain and getting soaking wet and the bike breaking down. And it was really good. You felt like you were there on the trip with them. It was really, yeah, I really actually enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
forgot about that book. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
was
funny
great.
because I got caught in a huge downpour the other day, and I had my leather jacket on, but I just had my jeans on and stuff. And so, I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, it just starts raining. You just kind of you, you have to just sort of go with the flow. And obviously,
You do. You do. I think as soon as you start to tense up, that's the end of it almost, really, isn't it? I
yeah,
find if I get cold, I get really, really tense. And it's like if I'm tired and cold, it's the worst thing. I've got to remind myself chicken wings, relax, because, yeah, everything goes through, yeah, goes through into you, doesn't it? So if you're really tense, it's not good. It's not good.
right.
It's not comfortable. Yeah, you don't, yeah. It's got to be, a little bit of rain. It's not so
Yeah,
bad. And if you've kept up with your bike maintenance, you have good tires. So, but yeah, I need to do more rain riding really. But I'm a wuss. I'm a bit of a girl about it. But this season will be good because really, I've had my 250 for coming up a year.
hmm,
I bought it, crashed up, and fixed it up and everything like that, and was riding it for about 6, 7 months, and then now I'm doing some more work on it for the next ride season, which is coming up really soon, which I'm so happy about because I've been going insane not being able to ride, so that'll be good. But yes, I haven't had it for that long, so this season's going to be my push time. I'm going to have some track days, hopefully, spend some money. Gosh, it's expensive, but I think it's well worth it. I'm silly though because I'm like, I want to practice before I do the track day.
sure.
But the track day is for the practice. So, it's not where all the furniture is. So if you do come off, you just sort of slide. And I don't think I'll be pushing enough to high side, obviously, my little 250, but I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know. I love that doco hitting the apex. You've seen it? Fight, fight, fight.
Oh,
Um,
yes, yes, yes. That was kind of I guess, the well, it was the third movie in a series of movies. You had Faster, and then you had Fastest, and then I think Hitting the Apex was kind of like, I think Hitting the Apex covered a lot of Simoncelli, like toward in the middle of the
oh, don't
movie, and
talk to
I
me
didn't
about
really have an
Simoncelli.
appreciation. Yeah, didn't really
Sad.
have an appreciation for him, but until after I saw that movie, and
Oh, really?
yeah, I
He's
mean,
so much
that was like
fun.
the first actually. Of course, I'm still kind of, well, I took a very long hiatus from motorcycle riding myself. I mean, I got started back on the, I guess, late '80s, early '90s. I'm dating myself here, but I got started riding back then, and even back then, I bought a $500 bike, which was actually a really good bike. It was an '81 GPZ 550. It was a friend of mine from college. It was his bike in college, and then he moved out to uh, from the Midwest out to the East Coast, and then we all actually ran into each other up in Boston. And so, when I was living up there, he and his brother loved to ride. They were into like jet skiing, and they were into four wheeling and the whole thing.
No.
And so, they would always like, hit me up. They would call me up and say, "Hey, you want to go jet skiing, or you want to go riding, or whatever." So it would be, a few of us, and we were all friends from college and stuff. So that was really my whole introduction. But I will say that, you know, um, I had ridden my bike, and it had this problem with the carburetors, with just I think it was the ethanol that they were putting in the fuel. It would cause the floats, or the carbs, to like clog up and then overflow.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I would have, I would be at a stoplight, and then all this fuel would just be dumping all over my exhaust,
Oh my
all
God.
over the headers. It was awful. And then I rode it all the way down to Connecticut, and then the throttle cable snapped on me when I was in Connecticut, so I had to take a train to go all the way back up to Boston, get my pickup truck, drive it down, throw it in the back of my truck, and drive it back up. So that was
So you need to write one of those books, it sounds like.
yeah. Um, Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just one of it was like my first like real hardcore experience with riding, and then I
Mm,
got to
mm.
ride like some of the old I rode an old GS 1100, and it was actually a guy I worked with. Um, he was into like he was a speed freak too. He had a Pontiac GTO. He had a Hydrostream boat. It's like one of those really really sort of sleek looking
Yeah,
boats
I
that
know.
have
I
these
know.
um,
Yeah.
big
And they
motors
always
on.
flip up and
Yeah,
crash to
yeah.
pieces.
So
Yeah, I
he
love
had
watching
one of
those.
those and stuff. So he was a speed freak as well, and he let me ride his bike. And so I've ridden like a lot of different bikes, but
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
spaced out over the
Yeah.
years. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the newer bikes
I think,
are I think a lot of people that get into motorcycling nowadays don't really have an appreciation for
yeah, I
don't
think you're so right on that too. I think you're so right on that. I think
everything
if you
because
really have a
everything
passion,
because all of the
mm,
bikes they're all turnkey bikes today. I mean, it's like you
yes,
never have
there's
to
no
worry about
choke,
like
there's no, yeah,
there's no
hmm,
choke. You didn't have to worry about your carbs clogging up, or if the
yeah,
battery wasn't like hooked up properly or
yeah,
whatever. All these
yeah,
little stupid little quirky
yeah,
things that were
yeah.
more or less
It's
manufacturing.
personality. Yeah, but it's personality of the bike. Everyone knows their own bike, and if it was a cold winter morning, they knew they'd have to like jiggle it around, slosh it around to get it to start, or it's those little things. It gives it character, and it makes you know your bike more than anyone else. It's kind of special,
Yep,
and sometimes it drives you insane. But when you look back, it's those moments that make you smile as well. And not that I really know personally from experience. I only had two bikes, but it's like that with anything, isn't it? It's those little things all put
sure.
together. And yeah, I think it is a shame. I think a lot of people don't appreciate, yeah, you're right, they don't appreciate it. And I think the passion's a bit different. I think, yeah,
Well,
like a lot of people,
have to make mistakes, which
mm,
I've made. On a motorcycle, you make mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes, and then
yeah,
it gives
yeah,
you,
yeah,
a much
yeah,
deeper appreciation for for the bike, and for the
yeah,
sport, and so forth,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you sort of
yeah.
become a gladiator in a way. I guess you could say that a lot of people think that today's gladiators are the people that ride motorcycles, and I'm not talking about like the guys. I mean, I see. I kind of cringe, but I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I don't always wear if I'm just going, up the street or whatever, going through the
Mm,
let's be honest here, getting your gear on and getting on the bike and stuff, that in and of itself is a ritual. You know,
it really is.
it's like getting
Yeah,
your gear on and getting zipped up and getting your helmet and your gloves and just,
yeah,
it's a whole ritual. And sometimes, I don't want to go through it. And you like have to force yourself to like sort of get into your gear, sort of thing. But
yeah.
I think you kind of pick and choose your battles, and I don't hold it against anybody who doesn't wear gear. And although it's like if you're going to be out for a while, I think just having because you're going to be out on the road longer, so the longer you're out on the road, I guess increases
Yeah,
the probability of something to go
exactly,
wrong.
exactly,
So, but they usually, but they say that the crashes generally happen within like 12 miles of your home,
exactly.
and
You're
that's
right.
actually that actually has been true at least in one instance with me. I went
Yeah.
out and I was not really in a good frame of mind to begin with, but I this is when I first got my Triumph, and I had my camera with me, but I for some reason or other I wasn't recording, and
Oh,
and I
yeah,
was only a few blocks from my house, and I went to get a cup of coffee, and it was like 35 degrees. It was really cold outside.
yeah,
And so I wasn't, thinking I had I was in full gear, boots,
yeah,
pants, the whole thing,
yeah,
helmet and so forth. And, I made a gear change and then I just, rolled on the throttle. Maybe I whacked it a little bit too hard, but I just, like roll on the throttle when you
yeah,
switch up through a gear, and the
yeah,
pavement was cold, the tires were cold, and
yeah.
it was like being on oil.
Yes,
And
yes.
I mean, that bike
It's like,
threw me up and
yeah.
over the handlebars, and I went head first into the pavement. So,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
so it was, I'll have to be honest. There was a fleeting moment where I was just ready to say, and this was at the time I was caring for,
Flying through there.
well, no, this was like sort of within the
Your
first
light
hour.
flashes before your eyes.
Well, yeah, I was thinking
Um,
like I was caring for my parents, and I'm thinking to myself, God, gosh, like what the heck am I doing here?
yeah, what are they
If
going to do without
something,
me if I go?
if that
Yeah.
happens. But I just, decided it was probably time to pace myself a little bit more. But
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, it's one of those things that you just, uh, like seeming like an unimportant decision. You just kind of like think you're going to get on the bike and go or whatever, but you're not
Mm,
thinking about the weather. You're not thinking about the road conditions. You're not thinking about the traffic
right.
or the time of day.
Yes.
All of
Yes.
these things play into,
And
a
that's
factor
another thing.
on,
It really does. I mean, it's like flying a plane, isn't it?
yeah,
You always check the weather. You always check your machine. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's huge. And I think if you don't, I don't want to say you deserve what's coming, but I mean, what is it? Fail to plan, plan to fail, basically.
right,
So yeah, and you've got
exactly.
to make it a habit. You've got to make it. I think from the get go, if you're learning to ride, you've got to build all those things and to make it a habit. You've got to make it so it's second nature. You check the weather. You always check the air pressure in your tires. You make sure you've got everything going right.
And then one of the things
Because
that I learned that, well, you can do like in colder weather, and I hadn't thought about this at the time, but, well, I'll just say this. First of all, Pirelli, Diablo courses are horrible in cold weather because
cold,
they take a while to warm up.
yeah,
I'd say below 60 degrees, they're
mm,
kind of useless. So,
mm,
I wouldn't, personally. I think
mm,
the cooler it gets, and if you're on uh, high performance tires in cold weather don't mix well unless you're riding like
yeah,
all day
yeah.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
It
you
just
got to be
doesn't.
you got to be pushing it. And if you just rode on the road, I mean, yeah, exactly.
And this is
You're
one
gonna
of the
know what you're doing.
reasons I opted for the Michelin Pilot Powers. It's a single compound tire, but they warm
Really?
up relatively quickly. Yeah, they're great
Wow.
tires, not very expensive, and they warm
Mm,
up very quickly, and they give you probably about 90% of the performance, as the Pirellis do. Just
mm,
maybe 85 or 88% of the performance that the Diablo courses do.
yeah.
But if you're really on the pipe, I mean, they're just spectacular. If you're just really shredding, they just
Mm,
they just really stick to the road really
so
well.
yeah,
So,
makes a huge
the other
difference.
thing I
Mm.
was told too is to let a little bit of air, like you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
little bit of air out of your tires during cooler weather, so you get
Yeah.
so your tire like squats onto the pavement a
So
little bit more.
yeah, you get more. Yeah, you get that contact pad.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
that's true, and you do get a little bit more of a feel. Of course, at the end of the day, but yeah, tires are huge, absolutely huge. And I think obviously, and if you're going to take a pillion on, you've got to think about that as well. It's added weight, the proportion of weight, things like that. Are they going to be hanging off? Do they know how to sit on the back of the bike? Are they going to be, flying around the back? And
Yeah, it's kind of like
there's so many
you have to brief them on everything, especially if
how
you've
to,
never
yeah,
done it before. But also, I
yeah,
think, and,
mm,
a consideration for those who are wanting to take pillions on is, I guess, like some of the younger guys, are just, well. Here's a really kind of a tragic story. This guy,
mm,
not they were racing on a stretch of road, probably about maybe 30 miles north of, where I am here, and it was, I think it was during the evening hours, and it was, they were approaching, the city limits area, and usually when you approach a city limits area on a major highway, traffic can back up, and especially if
back
it's
up,
like during
yeah, exactly.
rush hour traffic. Well, these guys were just going, they were just, really, uh, tearing it up on the highway, and they, weaving in and out of cars and all this sort of swapping paint with
Oh,
cars and stuff.
yeah,
And he had a pillion. He was on a Ducati, like I think he's on a 1098, if I'm not mistaken. And, he had his girlfriend on the back of the car, and they
yeah.
were probably going at least a buck 10. And I mean, if you look at the video, you can actually see the brake lights of the car's vehicle, and he wasn't looking that far ahead, and so he was cutting across. There's three lanes. He was in the far left lane, and he was trying to get around this truck that was in front of him and cutting all the way over to the right lane. And he closed in on it too quick, and he just whacked the back of the truck, and I don't know what happened to him. But I think he survived, and then the girlfriend got really jacked up really bad, sort of thing. But it's that kind of stuff. I mean, I would never ride
Yeah, it's
like
not just you anymore.
I
Mm,
would never
mm.
ride like that with. Well, I mean, shouldn't be riding
Yeah, I
like that in
know,
the first place. But I
exactly.
would never ever
Yeah.
think of riding like that with somebody on the back,
Yeah,
particularly.
like you've got no control. Yeah,
Well,
if you're on the
particularly if
back
it
of
was, I
someone's
mean, it's like
bike.
how much respect do you have for the person
Exactly,
on the, it's
exactly.
like if it was your first experience on a motorcycle, it's like that's kind of like their first introduction to riding. So you want to make
Mm.
it, you don't want to make it
As
like, you want
pleasurable
to
as
make it,
possible, yeah.
you might want to make it a little interesting, but not to the point where you're scared to death,
Not to
It's
the
like,
point where they're slingshotted into the back of the truck. No,
yeah,
no.
right.
Yeah,
So were
yeah.
you first did you first ride on the back of a motorcycle before, like
No,
you just got
no.
right into it? You just did,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
that's interesting because when I took the MSF course, there were a few ladies there that was their first. They'd never ridden a motorcycle before, and the
Right.
camaraderie between everybody. There were some guys
Mm,
that had never ridden before. It was a mixed
mm,
bag. You had like newbies, and then you had some people that had some experience and stuff, like myself and
right.
a few other guys. And so, but there was just a real sense of kind of like family, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
was like
It is.
supportive of one another, and
That's cool. Yeah,
helping
I
each
like
other
that.
out and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the thing to remember too, I don't really talk about this a whole lot, like in motovlogs and this sort of thing. But I think the thing to remember is that even in motovlogging and motorcycle riding, people are still people. They're going to be people
That's
you get
right.
along with and that you like. And then they're going to be
Yeah,
just, complete idiots that you just like,
yes.
yeah, and just because they ride a motorcycle doesn't give them
Doesn't change. Mm,
well, right. It doesn't
no,
give them a license to continue to be an idiot. So,
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
but
that's so right.
yeah,
Mm,
but I guess it's the other thing about motovlogging too. It's like I've actually recorded so many things that I've never actually published, like conversations that I've
I,
that I've had with myself about vlogging, whether about
yes,
relationships or faith or
yes,
whatever. And I'm like, yeah,
yes.
maybe that sounds too preachy. Maybe that sounds. So I never actually.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
I
kind of
guess.
it's almost like journaling, isn't it? It's just like getting it out. And I think sometimes that is enough. And if there's a really strong message behind it and you think it might help somebody, then yeah, put it out there. It could be really good and it'll work. But sometimes yeah, it's good to actually go, internalize and go, okay, what's this? What is this? How is it gonna affect someone, and is it worth it putting it out there, or is it just me talking to myself about crap, because we all do that, I think, sometimes.
Well, this
But
is the other thing too, and
mm,
I maybe going to catch a little bit of heat for saying this, but I well, I don't know it because I've looked at some of the demographics of like my videos, and I can see you can kind of like see or get a sense of the age group that watch the
hmm
videos and that sort of thing,
yeah,
and I would guess that it's mostly young kids and young people that are watching. So
right,
the more absurd and stupid and or reckless and irresponsible you
yeah.
can be, the more it appeals to the
Ent-
young kids, and then they share it with all their friends and that
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah,
And
yeah, entertainment
but
value,
the other thing about all of this is that and the reason why I haven't published a lot of the stuff that I've done, and probably never will, is because when you like publish something out on the web, out on the internet. I mean, it's there, and
mm,
it could be there forever. And
yeah,
if you're not around any longer, I mean, that's kind of like your legacy.
Yeah, the epitaph.
yeah, it's to the rest of the world. And so I've
Mm.
often asked myself, what do if I weren't here tomorrow and there was no way for me to like close my account down, or if it would linger on for maybe a few years or a
Right,
year or whatever,
right.
what impression, what lasting impression would I be leaving with
Yeah,
people? And I don't think
yeah,
too
yeah.
often um, there are some people that just aren't that forward thinking, with respect to what they
I
do
think
or
that's
what.
a really good point. That's a really good point. I think it's a great sort of line of thought down. More people need to actually explore. Yeah, imagine like you settle down, you have children, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, Dad, you've got what is this? This video?" And oh my goodness, or
Right.
you could die. I mean, you know, you could. And it's out
Yeah.
there, and that's who people perceive you to be. You're not there to show them every other day what your personality's like. It's, whatever's left, and it's people's memories of you, or obviously what they might find on the internet. You might really inspire you, and it might change their life forever, or you actually might put someone off.
Mm.
Yeah, so what do you want to put out there? What do you want your content to be like? I mean, I'm going over this in my own mind at the moment. It's just silliness and fluff. But
Well, right, and
yeah.
and this is sort of the thing that sort of dictates the content that actually ends up. And it's not to say that I've not done a few fool things, or whatever, like,
Mm,
in
mm,
some of the
mm.
vlogs, but or some of the content. But I try to I kind of think about, like, what would I like to see,
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
what would
yeah.
I like. I sort of think, I don't know if that's egocentric or if that's selfish.
Well,
um
I don't know. I think it's a good way to be, because you're more likely to do a better job if it's kind of what you would be more into. And I'm sure you wouldn't be the only person who would be into that stuff. So, yeah, and it would be more like a actual real following, rather than just people coming across your clip and watching it once and going off again. Like, if your stuff actually sort of communicates them on their level, I think it's more you're making more of a connection, you're making more of a difference. Um, so yeah, I think it's
I don't
great.
know, and I don't know if you've heard the YouTube has just recently changed their content policies. I was watching somebody's, I can't remember, maybe it was Clutch First, I can't remember. I think I was watching his vlog or somebody else's vlog, where they were talking
Mm,
about there's a lot of drama. Well, even just with vloggers in general or other YouTube, some of the
mm.
really big names in YouTube, and there's like been a lot of character assassination and
Yes. Yeah,
a
yeah.
backstabbing and this sort of thing. And I guess some
Mm,
motovloggers have, you know what, I've not paid attention and I couldn't tell you who they are because, to be
mm,
honest, I don't, I've not really, I don't really watch a whole lot of other motovloggers. If I'm honest,
mm,
there's a
mm,
select few,
mm.
because I think, a lot of the content is the same, and I kind of scratch my,
It is the same.
some of
Yeah.
the, there are, like, for example, let's take somebody like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Royal Jordanian. He's in the
I
UK.
have heard. I have heard.
And
I don't
he
know if
does,
I've actually
I
seen a
like,
clip of
I
him.
see, I like his whole approach. I mean, he's got a very
Right.
artistic approach, and he's been very methodical about,
Yeah.
how he
Yeah.
presents his stuff. There's another guy that's done pretty decent for himself that I kind of enjoyed. His name is Cager on Two Wheels. I think he's from
Hmm.
Portugal. He's a really kind of a funny dude, and I just I like his kind of like quirky, sort of geeky. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like his enthusiasm.
Yeah,
He's
that's
been
cool. Yeah,
he
I
used
like
to
that.
he used to ride around on this, and it's actually a bike I was considering. It was a Honda NC 700X. I think there's
Was it
another
the white one? Was it a white one?
yes, I think it was the white, exactly.
I
Yeah.
think I've watched one of his. I think I watched one of his clips, and he was like by the seaside. Does that ring a
Yes,
bell?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah, he
yes.
is good. Yeah, he seems so real and down to earth. Yeah, I
And
know what
then
you're talking about.
there's another
Nice bike.
a female motovlogger, uh, Wheels Not Heels, and she's on the West Coast in California. Really, just
Mm,
down to earth, very unpretentious. That has really good edits and her and some of her vlogs and stuff, and just very
lovely.
unpretentious. There are a lot of unpretentious motovloggers, but I think when you're trying to push the envelope with respect to content, creativity, and that sort of thing. I mean, I've certainly experimented with quite a few different mediums. If you're going to be, they say, what is it? Imitation is the best form of flattery. And I think,
Yeah.
when somebody has found a format or a formula that works in moto vlogging,
Mm,
that's why you
mm.
see all of the
See
other
eye to
moto
eye.
vloggers, monkey see, monkey do, and then everybody else is
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Yeah, 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 it's true. It's true. And I guess when you're starting out and you're learning, you do need some sort of template to go off because you just really don't know. But in saying that, sometimes not looking at too many and trying just to make it up yourself is actually a good thing because you may come up with something new, and something new might happen out of it, and it might make all the difference. Someone will probably come along and either say, "Hey, that's awesome," or someone might actually say, "Do you know what? That's a bit crap," and you might need to do this,
Right.
that. But it's all learning, and I think if you think that you know it all already and you've got that attitude, I think you're already, you're playing a losing battle from the get go. I think you've got to be humble and I think you've got to be open to new things. But I think you've got to be genuine to who you are and what you're putting out there. And I think if you're trying to be a carbon copy of something else that's already out there, I mean, you may get a little bit, but I don't think it'll be sustainable. So, yeah, and I think I would much rather just have a really small sub base that actually are real and are there all the time, maybe commenting and maybe I'm if they've got a channel then I'll comment on them as well and things like that. I'd much rather that than just have a whole lot of fakes and phonies and getting. So I'm kind of thinking about my content, thinking, well, I want to be positive. I want to get more positive because I'm watching some of the stuff out there and it's just so negative. And like you were talking about the drama, there is a lot of drama and I don't want to be signing up for that at all. So, and I think
It's
as
hard,
bikers,
it's hard not to get
mm,
sucked into it because
yeah,
look, there's another really cool moto vlogger. He's in Arizona. His name is Flashwing, and I really like his
that's
you
a cool
know
name. I like that
I
name.
I yeah, it is. He's kind of he's got this really cool brand that he's sort of his logo, his brand. I like
Mm,
what he's done with it. Um, I understand,
yeah,
he's got a lot of irons in the fire, and sometimes he's not able to keep the content flowing and stuff. But
right.
it is I think you know everybody has got something on their plate, like what they're dealing with in real life,
Real life, yeah. Mm,
and I think, where do you find, like, I was trying to find a balance between, like, how much do I actually
mm,
share, how much of yourself do you actually share with people, in moto
yeah,
vlogging.
yeah,
It has to be, I think, in some respects it's important that it be tempered with wisdom, um,
yes,
to be like
definitely,
wise with how much you share with
yeah,
people,
yeah,
and I think
mm,
some people will use it for a variety of different reasons. Some people use it as a bully pulpit. Some people use it as, you know, maybe they'll just use it hoping somebody will listen to them, sort of thing.
mm,
I think uh, when you have, you want to reach out to people and you want to
yeah,
interact with people and stuff. And
yeah,
I think that there's a big sense of that too, is, wanting to be included. My whole, I guess, approach, and I've been trying, my philosophy or my mission statement, if you will, has been about my enthusiasm for motorcycles and maybe some
Right.
of the other subjects that I share
Mm,
or decide to share with people. I mean, I did release a video and then I took it down and had to do with, a family situation, with in particularly like with, uh, the loss of my mom. And I
mm,
wasn't putting that. I don't know. It's like I wanted to sort of encapsulate the feeling of, what I was
right.
going through at the time,
Yeah,
but everybody, like I say, everybody is going through something different, and
that's right.
I've been maybe a little bit more calculated in what I put out there or what I don't, and um,
Mm.
sometimes I just want to like
Right.
open the floodgates and just
Yeah.
uh,
Shake your fist at the world.
well, yeah, I mean, don't we all?
Oh
But
yeah, 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 yeah.
um,
But then, yeah, it's hard because you just feel like you'll just feel like the rest.
right,
It's like, do we want to be the negative? Yeah, or yeah, I'd much rather be the positive. Eh?
yeah.
Much rather.
Well, and yeah, and sometimes it's like when it's like separating your work from your home sort of thing. Because like when you're vlogging,
Right.
and it's kind of like
Mm.
vlogging becomes sort of a, I don't know, in a way, it's like a second job, or it can be a second
Mm. Yeah, when
career.
you're editing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think people half realize, and a lot of the viewers, I mean, viewers who actually decide to become motovloggers,
Mm.
and get into the medium,
Mm. Mm.
they uh, and quit
They don't know
very
what they're
early on.
signing up for. Yeah,
Well, right, until you actually
that's
get
it.
into it,
Yeah.
and there's no
It,
real
mm.
economical way
No,
to
that's right.
approach this.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's an expensive proposition. I mean, if you're talking about
Mm.
motovlogging,
Mm.
you're talking
Definitely.
about purchasing the motorbike and purchasing all of the equipment that goes with the motorbike, the accessories, the
Yeah.
jackets, the boots, the helmet, and so forth. And then insurance,
Mm.
registration, and the
Yes.
property tax you have to pay, and then the maintenance on the bike, the tires, and keeping the oil changed, and all that sort of thing. And then buying your
You're
kit,
really
buying.
selling it. Mm.
Well, I mean, you got to be real about it. It's like
Oh
this is
yeah.
all this. This is all. It's like, so you want to be a motovlogger, right? Yeah. Well, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, this
Yeah.
is what you're
Yeah.
signing up for.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
it's a huge, for many, I would say for many, maybe even most, it's a
Yeah.
huge, time intensive and financial undertaking. And this is
It
part of
is.
the reason why, and the diminished returns. I mean, unless
Mm.
you're, um,
Mm.
you make a name for yourself, you go out there, you learn how to do wheel. I mean, I think some of these guys actually, they calculate, they take a pulse on the market, and they say,
Mm.
this, do thus and so, and this is, they figure out what sells, if you will, and what doesn't,
Yes.
and they appeal to that, to
Yeah.
that demographic
Yeah.
or that market or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
say I actually had a conversation with a motovlogger
Mm.
a few years ago, and this guy, he actually knew exactly what he was doing. He
Mm.
had the metrics, the analytics, and I mean, I'm serious. This is a guy who
Wow.
who approached this whole thing like he
Wow.
would a business. And what a lot of people don't realize is, there are a lot of the moto vloggers that are doing really well or have done very well. um, I mean,
Mm.
they have a cachet or appeal or a shtick or whatever it is you want to call it, a something like a,
Je ne
uh,
sais quoi.
yeah,
Yeah.
something that appeals, that is unique to them, I guess you could
Mm.
say. And
Mm.
that's part of the whole, you know. So you want to be a clown, it's like, well, if you're going to be a clown, you're going to be a good clown, and
Yeah.
that's what you get into. But I would say that, like, at this point, anybody who goes into the prospect of motovlogging as a second career or whatever should really
Mm.
think long and hard about what they're doing, because unless
Yeah.
you're prepared to take a lot of abuse and put up with a lot of crap, You know,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
something that you could,
Yeah.
the joy,
That's right.
your joy will be greatly diminished
That's
in
right.
in so doing and stuff. I mean, there are a
Yeah.
lot of just, you know, I recently went to, I'll give a shout out to Defobra, Motovlogger, 74 Seabass, 74 Seabass. He's a really cool dude. Um, I've talked a little bit, you know, chatted a little bit like with more bad ideas. He's an unusual cat, but I don't have a problem with him. I think he's all right. You know, he's all right in my book. He just recently uh had a crash. There's quite a few motovloggers that got into crashes.
Crashes.
Yeah,
Yeah. They go
Seabass did.
viral though, don't they? Gee
Yeah,
whiz.
yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
if you're going,
Yeah.
you want you're going to be a real popular motovlogger. Crash your bike into, just head your bike
Yeah,
into
make
that
it
tree
epic.
right over there, and you'll be fine. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
that's right.
or get
But
up in
yeah,
people's
you'll
or get
be
up in people's
popular.
face.
You'll go viral. You could be dead, but hey.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could be dead,
that's
but
right.
you'll be popular. You know.
That's right. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Well, they
Well, on
say,
that pop
yeah, on that
yeah.
note. But anyway, so I guess we'll conclude this this meeting
Mm.
across the
Thanks for
globe.
having me,
We're two different
everybody.
time zones, and not only in two different
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the
hemispheres. We're two.
afternoon here.
Yep, it is approaching.
I am future girl.
Yes, Future Girl is with us today.
Yes,
So,
tomorrow. Lovely, by the way.
or
Just
tomorrow, she's with us
so you,
tomorrow, or yeah, what will be our tomorrow?
tomorrow today.
Yes, your tomorrow is my
Yeah. Your
yesterday,
tomorrow is
I
my
guess,
today. Mm. Yeah.
or your today is
Back to
my
the
tomorrow.
future or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
amazing that you guys have like this the weather patterns. It's like you're coming into you're in like spring now, and we're approaching
Yeah,
fall, and our weather's getting cold, and
we've
it's
just hit
getting
spring.
warm, and everything is
Warmer.
like upside down and
Mm-hmm.
backwards. It's really
It
unusual.
is. Yeah.
So, well, it
Yeah.
was a pleasure having you here with us, with me on this live cast. And it's BubblyNess. Check her YouTube channel out. And I will leave a link to her YouTube channel in the About section below. Take care, everybody. And shiny side up, dirty side down. And remember, shades and spades.
No.